like I said, had I not had, it's my Discover credit card. I still have it today. I don't close it because that was the start of my path. Had I not had that availability to credit at that time, I wouldn't have been able to get in.
Yep. That's so awesome. I'm smiling because I have such a similar story. I mean, we've talked about it, right? Same thing, didn't have the money, slam it on a card,
Yeah.
right? Go fly somewhere, don't have the money to be there, don't have the money for the food, don't have the money for the hotel, but I think that so often agents are afraid to invest in themselves in our industry. And it's really interesting. It's like a conundrum because the reason why they're so afraid to invest is because they don't have a system to be able to pay it back. They don't have a system to be able to have consistency. And when you're going to start any business, generally there's going to be some cost. And if you want to do things at a high level, you're going to have to get over that to be able to invest in yourself. And like you said, it comes up to a belief in yourself, right? Like when we're working with somebody, that we call it an internal objection, right? Okay, I see it works. I see how it'll work. I just don't know if I can do it, right? That internal objection is the hardest one to ever overcome because, a lot of times people can't suspend that internal disbelief long enough to get through to success. And it's very challenging. It's very frustrating. It's very disheartening because, if they could, they would know like how great it is on the other side of that,
Yeah.
like where you are today.
Yeah.
I had my first broker one time said, um, we were looking at the stats and it was the number one agent at the time in the business. And he said, I would never want to be that busy. He's like, I would never want to do that many transactions. And I'm thinking to myself, well, that makes one of us. Like I would,
Right.
I would love to be
Yeah.
that good. What he didn't know at the time was that particular agent had much more free time than he did in the smaller amount of transactions because that particular agent had systemized their business and they had things that were running that were consistent. They had lead gen, they had everything that they could set a clock to. And that's really the goal, whatever you're doing in the space and in the business, like the end goal is to be able to have really a systems based business that you can rely on that serves you instead of you being a slave to it, right?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, we sell over a house a day, and
Yeah.
I would say that I have more um, free time in my schedule that I can really plan around now than I ever had in my business because of the things that you've said you got to understand the systems processes, you got to understand leverage in the business and how to use that
Right.
correctly. And when you leverage correctly in your business and you understand the numbers, and that was the biggest thing too that I was taught in coaching is know your numbers, right? And then it's not
Hmm.
scary to go spend for those things because you know what your ROI is, right? I understand when I go and hire a great admin, although it looks like it's on the liability side of the P&L, right? It looks like it's taking money away from the bottom line, but in fact, when I add somebody super talented to my team, it's giving me more time and it makes me more money.
100%. Dude, I remember the first time I was in a room and I was at a table with some agents. We were having a dinner and this dude asked me, he said, what's the average transaction amount in your market? And I said, I don't know. And he started clowning me. He's like, this guy don't know. I said, you want to go outside and talk about it? And like, I just got real angry.
The
And
Italian came
had
out of
that
you?
time to come out. Huh?
Said the Italian came out of you?
All day. I was kind of shocked at myself. I was like, wow, I didn't even know that was still in there. He shut up after that. And then he was a real kind guy. He sent me a nice note afterwards apologizing, mailed it, which I thought was super classy. But yeah, knowing your numbers, like, you gotta know those numbers, right? How many leads does it take until you get a closed transaction? Like that's the watermark minimum, right?
Yes.
How many no's if you're door knocking until you get a yes, right? If you don't know those numbers, then you're just out there kind of scrambling and you don't really have any light at the end of the tunnel.
It
So I want to talk about, go ahead.
No, I'm saying that's 100% it. Knowing it makes it turns on all the lights, right? When you like with your business, right? You could probably go to one spreadsheet or one piece of software that you guys use and all the lights are on. You know exactly what you're spending, what your ROI is. Like if I add another lead gen system, I know beforehand, right? It's like when you go in and buy investments properties, right? You make your money when you buy it, not when you sell it, because you know your numbers up
Right.
front. And that's the same thing I tell people when you're implementing something like that. It's not, there's no guarantees, but at the end of the day, we go in knowing, that we're going to win on this, right? We already know kind of, okay, this lead gen is going to bring about this ROI, this conversion, as opposed to if we do this or that. And then it's just right of what kind of implementation or, how deep are you going to go with that, right? Open houses
Right.
work. I promise you they work. And I can tell you everything. It's just, do you want to do those? Are you going to be consistent with it? All the things that need to happen for a great open house system, are you going to do those things? But they work. I love when agents
Yeah.
tell me I do open houses, they don't work. Man, they work. Promise you they work.
Well, on that note, let's talk about like the biggest driver of your business, right? So what drives your business today?
We are known in the market, my team, the three things that, I always say: know your value add, know your pitch, know what you're great at, right? We're great at systems, we're great at technology, we're great at leads, coaching, right?
Yep.
Those are our things. So we're a very internet driven lead generation team. We generate a ton of leads, and we are extremely efficient with that.
Absolutely. And so, I try to make this point a lot of times to, our people here, like most of all of the top agents that I know, their biggest pillar is, online leads. But if you ask the average agent, they're like, oh, I talked to somebody that doesn't work.
Yep.
So let's talk about the skills that it takes really to make that and take that raw material and turn it into a consistent transaction. How did you learn those? How do you describe those to agents who come on board now? What are some of your biggest lessons learned there?
Yeah, the biggest thing, like I said, always number one at the top of the list of our team is training, is coaching. Um,
Yeah,
that has to be number one. Even if you're doing, a referral based business, a expired FISBO, right? Whatever that lead gen kind of way that you're going, you got to know, what is the ROI on that? What are the scripts and the way that you need to approach that? So, as for me, it's just been coaching, right? I knew that we wanted to do business at a very high level and very efficient and very consistent. And pipelines, right, are the consistency and the best thing you can do for your business. If I know that I have closings this month, next month, right, June, July, if I know that pipeline, you sleep good at night.
yeah,
And you can be consistent.
100%.
Yeah, you can be consistent with that through online lead generation. So then I realized,
Yep,
okay, I can make this happen, right? As far as a consistent flow of leads. And then you got to start defining what is a lead, right? I always talk when people say, well, the leads are bad. Explain that to me. What's a bad lead? What's a good
yeah,
lead? Let's define what a lead is, right? What an online lead is. And then you got to know really where that's, look at the source, right? Meaning what was really the pillar of that lead? Was it coming from,
right.
the internet? Was it coming from Facebook? Was it coming? All of those things are going to have different ROIs. Are going to have different time frames in the sales funnel. So I really just
Yeah.
started kind of, in my world, I call it just kind of geeking out on learning sales cycles and how online lead generation works. And even, if we talk about, what no one, if we talk about Zillow and really what a Zillow lead is and how that works. And I dove so deep into understanding lead gen that we just became really good at it. And the first thing you got to know is you got to have the right mindset. It's like when people want to go farm a neighborhood and they've done it for 2 months and they come to me and they tell me it doesn't work. Right. Well, I had enough money for 2 months, Mike, and nobody called me, and that doesn't work. I'm gonna try something else. Right. So you had the wrong
Yeah.
mindset going into it. You had the wrong approach. To
Yep.
to farm a neighborhood is going to be a long term. You're talking 12, 18, 24 months to get your ROI. If you and I were going to go do
Uh-huh.
a TV campaign, right? We know how long we would have to spend X amount of dollars before money starts coming back in and starts going to the black and out of the red. So the lowest
Yeah.
hanging fruit is, I think, internet leads. You can be very consistent. You can get a super high ROI on them, but you've got to know where those leads are coming from and how to communicate with those leads and what systems to put in place and how to do your follow up. The money's in the follow up. And that's what agents
All day.
don't want to do because they don't have a system in place and they don't understand. And when you don't understand something, typically you just say it doesn't work.
Yeah. It's the most frustrating thing on both sides of the business. In my real estate team, I would have agents that would get the same leads. I ran really kind of a stupid model where I would just give everybody the same amount of leads, right? It was like socialism, everybody gets the same, and we divvy them
I
out
could
this way.
I could see
And,
you doing that. Yeah.
yeah, I was just trying to keep it fair. But what would happen would be like one team member would do like really well, or maybe a few of them would do really well, and then there'd be like a few at the bottom. I go to the people at the bottom, like, hey, how can we help? What's going on? Well, you give all them the good leads. I'm like, well, I don't have a crystal ball
Right.
when this system is divvying these out, so that's not actually true. Let's dig into your processes, and it would inevitably be they weren't following the processes, or if they were, they would be doing it in almost an attitude of what's the word I'm looking for? Like malicious obedience, right? They would do it expecting it to not work, but going through the motions because that's what I said, and
Trying
then
to
they'd be surprised at the outcome not being what
right.
they
Yeah.
wanted.
Trying to
That's
prove
what you were
you
expecting when you
trying
do
to
this.
prove you wrong
Yeah,
for the wrong reason.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, but to what end? It's like cutting your nose off to spite your face, right? Like, why don't you try it the way that we're, describing and enjoy the rewards of that?
Yep.
And it was just it's a part of the industry, it's part of the process. It's never going away. But I think it goes back to that internal disbelief. Like I see it works for them. I
We
just don't see how it'll work for me.
No, that's a great point.
And
And what we've done, Mike, I wouldn't say to solve that or but to help deal with it
mitigate it.
is
Yeah.
we help deal with that up front. So if you come on my team, we're going to ask you, do you want to be part of our lead team? What does that mean, Ryan? What's the lead team, right? And then we really dive in.
Yeah.
Here's the responsibilities. Here's the requirements of being on the lead team, and I make you sign an agreement contract, right? Like we don't believe in
Yeah.
expectations here. We believe in agreements,
Yeah.
right? An
Love
expectation,
that.
right? If I just have an expectation of what you're going to do, you're probably going to let me down or something's going to go bad in there. But if we have an agreement, okay, you want to be on the lead team, here's what I'm going to provide to you, Mike. Here's, everything that you're going to get from us. And here's what I expect from you. Sign here, press hard. And then I'm going to hold you to this, right? You agreed to this. So we do that up front with agents. So there's not that well, I didn't know what to do, or yeah, this person got all the good leads. So they understand right up front, like you said, we're not, if Steve on the team is, closing at a ratio of X and you're half of that, I'm not giving him anything that you're not getting. It's either a skill set or it's an effort issue, right? It's one of those two things. Either
100%.
we have an effort problem or it's a skill set, which I can help. I can't help on the effort side, right? That's you. I can help
Yes.
you on the skill side, and that's where the coaching, the training, and that is so important. We have a full-time real estate coach on our team that I pay for.
Yeah.
Just he's we call him he's the CEO of our agent success, right? That's his job
Love it.
is agent success. And he's the
Yes.
one that John will listen to their calls and help figure out that like you're coming, you're doing all the right things of being here, the trainings, all of that. Why are we not hitting certain numbers? Right. And then he'll dive in and look at what your scripts are, right? How are you handling objections? Just what is your skill set with listings as opposed to buyers and all those types of things? How's your negotiating skills?
Yeah, for sure. I think that, for agents listening to this, if you don't have access to a team like Ryan's and there's not one in your market, I think at the beginning of this is create an agreement with yourself, right?
Yeah.
What are the things that you're willing to do and write them down and make sure that you are, very clear. One of the things I tell people all the time is like when you have leads, make sure you're calendaring the time that you're going to call those just like you would a listing appointment in your schedule and be consistent with it.
Yeah.
If you tell somebody you're going to call them back in 2 days, you better call them back in 2 days. Don't go chasing new business when you've already got that earned business that's expecting your phone call. But it takes that self discipline and it takes that awareness. And I love agreements too, man, because there's no, but I thought you said,
Right.
but I thought I heard. Like, no, no, no. We write so we don't have to remember.
Yep.
Right. Here's where we're at.
Well, how many
Yeah. Let's kick it
arguments,
back.
even I tell people, even in thinking your own home, in your home life, if you had agreements, set expectations, right? A lot of, and I
Yeah.
can remember growing up, right? My parents expected certain things, but we didn't have agreement really. I was going to clean my room. You might have expected me to, or, you expected me to do the dishes, but we didn't really have an agreement that I was going to do them. And
Right.
those
Right.
were the issues,
You
right?
home at midnight, but I'm
Yeah,
not. I
like
don't know
I
agree with
yeah, there was expectations of me, but we didn't really have an
Right.
agreement on things that were very, ironclad on both sides. So I
I
think,
love it.
those fix, especially for business, it's much easier, right? And I think it's just a good way to operate.
Yeah, yeah, it's good for everybody, and accountability is like a real high form of caring. You know what I mean?
It's
Uh,
I mean, people say, our coach says it's one of the highest displays of love, really, is accountability, right? If you say you're going to do something, you do it. And that's why I think
yeah,
if anyone's by themselves, if you're listening to this, and you don't have a team and you're by yourselves, find you an accountability partner to make calls with and to do these, because the worst thing that I found is everybody wants to be self-employed, right? But then you realize that the boss is yourself. And you know what?
yeah,
If I don't want to do something, you know what I tell the boss? I tell him I'm not going to do it. And
right.
there's no repercussions for that, right? You know how many times I tell myself, "Hey, I'm getting up at 6 o'clock tomorrow and I'm hitting the gym," and when I wake up, I tell the boss I'm not going to the gym because I don't feel like it. Now, if you have an accountability partner, right, and you really have that love and that
Yeah,
trust for that person, you're going to make sure you go and do that for them, right? It's that piece that's so important. And if you don't have that, the things that you don't want to do, it makes it hard to do those things.
I agree 100%, especially when you're a salesperson because you sell yourself on why it's not a good idea this morning to go to.
I
Well, I got a busy day. I don't want to be tired throughout the day, so I'm just going to go ahead and get a little
like,
extra
I'm
sleep.
kind of
Right?
tired. I can do it tomorrow. I'm not going to lose any weight today anyway. I won't have that.
Seriously.
I won't have that burger today. I'll be all right.
It's the same with the leads, man. "Oh, I'll call them tomorrow. I'll call them later. I'll take care of it then. I'm too busy. I'm too tired. I'm too this, right?" And then you just don't have consistency, and then you wonder why your business is always fluctuating as far as your income,
Yep.
and you start to kind of hate it. Yeah.
Yep. No, it's so
Well, that's
true.
awesome, brother. Book suggestions. What would be your top book suggestion?
Book suggests. So, I mean, I started with,
Favorite book specifically?
Think and Grow Rich, Rich Dad Poor
Love it.
Dad. I'm old school. Those are the ones I started with. The Think and Grow Rich was probably my Bible, that really started jump setting some of the thoughts and different things. And then Rich Dad Poor
Oh, that's
Dad was very good for me in the beginning. Um, I'm trying to think of, there's so many different. I follow a ton of Tony Robbins. Um, the, you know, yeah, I can't think offhand.
that's good. That's good enough. Honestly, Think and Grow Rich is the second most cited book by millionaires to read. The first is the Bible because you said, "Oh, that was my Bible." I was like, "Oh, that's hilarious," because it's like you hit them both, right?
Yeah, I'll tell you the funniest story. So back when bookstores and stuff were popular, you remember that when you'd actually go places.
I do. Barnes and Noble, baby.
So yeah, Barnes and Noble. So when I first came to Columbus and was going to Ohio State again, poor college kid, didn't have any money, and I wanted to read all these business books. So I would go, and the first one that I found was Think and Grow Rich, and I would literally every day would go and read as much as I could between classes, and I'd set it in like the cooking section or something, right? Because I didn't have the money to buy the book. So I would just
Yeah,
come back and so I tell everyone, like, it doesn't matter if your will is there, right? You're going to find a way. And I would just said, so I knew no one's going to buy it, right? Because I'd put it back somewhere only I knew where it was. And then the next day I'd go back and I'd grab the book and I'd start reading it again. And that's how I
I
would
love that.
read these, because I started reading for free, right? I was getting all these books for free
Yeah,
because I didn't have an extra $20 to go buy the book.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Camp said they had a Barnes and Noble, but not a library.
I mean, it was, yeah, I can remember it wasn't far from campus. And yeah, I would just go in there every day. And they would they'd let you sit in there and kind of read. So there was never an issue with that. I think they would expect you to buy the
Yeah,
books. I just would never buy the book. So I'd sit there,
that's so
read, put
cool.
it back,
I
come
love
back, and yeah. And then when I was done with that, but I'd grab another book and I just follow that same process of, just is trying to feed my brain. And yeah, it's powerful. I tell everyone, now I'm much better. My ADD is so bad that reading takes me forever. So the audio is what I go to now. That's
Yeah.
that's so good for my type of personality. So.
I'm with you there. I crush Audible books. I love them.
Yep.
The cheat code is if you can listen to Audible and read along with the hard copy, which costs twice as much. But if you put it at like 1.5 times speed, sometimes two, depending on the author
Yeah.
or the reader, it's like speed reading. For me, my comprehension goes through the roof, right? Because like I'm jacked in. I can't get distracted by anything else. You know,
I can see you on the treadmill right now. Yeah.
I don't do that on the.
He's got his headphones
yeah.
on and focus dialed in. Love it.
Every day. I love it. You know, I love both those things. I love trying to take care of myself, and I love feeding my brain.
Yeah.
And you know, like I said, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. So for you, even despite not having the resources, like the teacher still appeared.
Yeah.
And for people watching today, Ryan, you're that teacher, which is pretty awesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For the people listening, the people who are doing this, they're picking up nuggets, right? And so it comes full circle. I just
It does.
want to say thank you so much.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah,
think the
for
biggest thing
taking
that anyone can do, and you're a true testament to that, Mike, is I think passing on knowledge is a very important part of life and for us being here, right? If you know something and to be able to pass that on, especially you know, in the ways where it can be very life changing, right? Of what you do for a living, and you know, especially I believe that in the real estate industry overall. So to be able to, you know, one of the biggest, you know, highs that I get right now is having a new agent come on the team and be able to see that spark, right? When they see that success,
Yeah.
and they start seeing some of those paychecks coming through and helping people buy and sell homes and change their lives, and it's powerful.
It is. It's very fulfilling. It's one of the big drivers for me for what I do here because it's the catalyst. It's the beginning of that process for a lot of people,
Yeah.
or it's a supplement to that process for a lot of people. And it just has a massive ripple effect, right? So it serves them, it serves their team, it serves the future team that they might have if they didn't have one or not a part of one. It serves the customers, it serves the mortgage, it serves the title, it serves Lowe's and Home Depot. It's just such a big ripple,
Yeah.
and it's all for good.
Yeah.
You know,
I love
which
it.
is
One
yeah,
of our things on the team, and people used to make fun of me about, I would say, we change people's lives, and they'd be like, "What are you talking about? You sell real estate?" And I'd be like, "No, it's deeper than that.
right.
We literally are changing people's lives." And when you think about the biggest thing that probably 99% of people you and I know, right, in the world, the biggest thing they're ever going to buy or sell is their home.
Yeah, 100%. And with the people that we get to have an impact on, you know, especially the agents, we get to change their way of thinking,
Yeah.
which, you know, once it's stretched out, it never goes back. And it just, you know, I was always a big fan of founder of an insurance company named W. Clement Stone. He was a mentor of my dad's, and he always said one man can change the world. And you know, I was reading his book one time, and I was thinking, man, he's right because he's changing me even today after he's no longer alive.
Yeah.
It's amazing, you know? Yeah. And I think that's one of the highest and best things that we can do as humans. And so, again, brother, thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you for being on here. I know you're super busy, and I know that you had to carve this out. Yeah. And I'm just grateful. I take it as a personal favor. And I hope that everybody listening and watching, you know, that you guys have gotten a lot out of this. If you didn't, you should go get a notepad and listen to it again. Make sure you took a lot of notes because these are a lot of good nuggets that Ryan dropped here. So thanks again, brother.
No, I appreciate you. Thanks, Mike.